Hi, welcome to our third season of SMarketPlace. I'm Keith Reynolds. I am the founder of Publio and PublioSTUDIO, and we have a great show today about uh, opening doors to close sales with Sherry Wheat. I'm here with Tom Dempsey. Welcome, Tom.
You again. Another
Great to see
great
you.
episode with great guests.
I know we learn so much every
We
time we do
do.
this.
Yes, we do.
How have you been?
I've been great. I've been great.
It's good
Went,
to be back on the podcast horse again. We took August off.
yeah, regenerate.
You see any
Seen
good
some.
concerts?
Yeah, the other night I went to Johnny Marr, who is the guitarist for the Smiths,
Oh yeah,
and that was a great show.
very cool. Well, why don't we spare no time and invite Sherry Wheat to join us? Hi,
Good
Sherry.
afternoon. Good afternoon,
Hey,
everybody.
Sherry.
Hi.
So
Happy to happy to be here.
where are you calling in from, Sherry?
I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, up in the mountains.
Oh, so you avoided all the storms? I heard it was really crazy out there this past week.
Yeah, we had a lot of rain, but it wasn't crazy. It's been fine. Yeah.
Good.
But thankful for the rain that we had because it was a little dry,
Oh,
but
that's
we're wet
good.
now.
I'm glad you're safe.
Yeah, thank you.
So, tell us a little bit about telesales and how you came to be the founder of the company. I've been very impressed getting to learn about what you do.
Well, thank you. It started 25 years ago. I actually gave up. I was a landscape architect. I couldn't do it anymore for numerous reasons. But I was always on the phone as a landscape architect, making things happen at all different levels. And I knocked around for a couple of years and then ended up working with a physician who did medical legal consulting to attorneys. And he gave me this great big attorney directory. And I got on the phones and started generating business and became his best marketer. And one day when I was doing that, the entrepreneurial light went on. And I realized small businesses need to be talking to their prospects on a regular basis. So then I started thinking about that, and that idea kept swirling around in my head. And I had a bunch of synchronistic things that started happening. And all of a sudden, I had a business. All of a sudden, I had a call from a large PR advertising company that needed a team to do all kinds of things. And I said yes. Many of those things I'd never done before, and I didn't have a team to do them. But I said yes, and we created the team, and that started the business.
That's awesome. So, there we go. So, why do you love what you do?
I love growing things, Keith. I mean, as a landscape architect, that's what I was doing. And as a marketer, that's what I do. So I know I'm a connector, and I know that businesses and heads of business, CEOs, whatever, aren't necessarily connectors, but they've got great ideas and they've got teams to implement things. But they don't necessarily have the time, the desire, the interest to be on the phones talking to their prospects. So we become an extension of our clients' offices, and we fill that gap so they don't have to worry about, is someone talking to my prospects? Is someone talking to the new niche I want to go after? Are they following up with my inbound leads? Does someone get on the phones and talk to my trade show leads? You know, we do that, and we've been doing that for a long time. So, and we get those prospects on their calendars, so they've got those meetings.
Very
Are,
cool.
are there any specific types of businesses that are more predisposed to this?
That's a really good question. Yes, if there is a need in their market. And so we've worked in all different kinds of industries, Tom. If I look at the alphabet, architectural engineering, construction, design, cybersecurity, website software, all of those businesses need to be talking to their prospects. Of course, they're attracting business through search engine optimization. Everybody's doing email marketing. But I get hundreds of emails every day and I don't respond to any of them. So in terms of industries, it's across the board. If their network or their prospects particularly have a need and they're buying, that's a very good time to be talking to them. If businesses are not aware of what the needs are of their prospects, they may not be taking advantage of, specific approaches to their niche markets. So that's what we help develop. It's like, why would we call? And what are we trying to accomplish? With whom? By when?
And you don't need to be an expert in those to start the dialogue and get a follow-up going. That's always been fascinating to me. Tell us a little bit about what expertise and what techniques are used to make the telephone a real tool.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot we don't want to know. So we don't want to know about money and what charges are, what your services cost when we work with a client. What we want to know is what we want to develop questions, interested questions that helps us identify if those prospects have a need. So it's not about selling. It's about uncovering information to identify who might have a need now or who might have a need in 6 months. So we're developing both short-term and long-term leads for our clients. But it's how we introduce ourselves, I think it's important, and the questions that we ask.
Each company has its different culture, right? If they've put thought to it and they've implemented it, how do you sort of represent that culture? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's really important. So I spend time interviewing usually the business owner, the CEO, or head of marketing to get a good sense of that culture and what's important to them, and also what value they bring to the market, what value they bring in terms of the services they offer. So I interview my clients and I develop what I call a conversation guide. And I'm pulling the information that my agents need to accurately represent my clients when they get on the phones. So what questions should we be asking? What should we be acknowledging their prospects may be challenged by? All of that intelligence comes from my clients, because as far as I'm concerned, they're the expert in their industry. I am not. Then I'm going to send that conversation guide back to them for their input, etc. So we want to represent them accurately.
Gotcha.
So I know in this business, metrics and KPIs are really important. Talk to us a little bit about understanding when we work with a company like yours, and what kind of results can you expect? What do you measure? How do you show progress? How do you identify things that may need to be improved that you can switch mid track? Talk to us a little bit about how you know from the metrics.
So we have a call tracking software that we use. So after we've gone through the setup program, our marketers are going to get on the phone. Our clients give us lists of prospects they want us to call on. We've set up the dispositions in terms of outcomes that we think we will get on the phones. And then we track everything. Before we get on the phones, though, I want to identify my clients' goals and what is success to them. And I'm not going to promise that we're going to do X number of appointments every week or every month, because we don't know until we get on the phones. But we want to understand our clients' success, what's a success for them, and then that's our target.
In that, what did you? It's not a script. You call it a conversation
guide,
right?
Yeah.
I would imagine that there'd be some objection handling.
Yes.
That's pretty natural when you're cold, especially if it's a cold call, not a warm call.
Yes.
How do the marketers deal with that? Is it just on a situational basis or a topic or issue basis?
Well, again, we work with our clients to understand what are the typical objections that we're going to receive, that they get when they're doing their calling or their sales. So we're familiar. So it could be, I don't have the time, I don't have the need, I don't have this or that, or please don't call me. We're going to do our best to be very respectful of what that objection is. And we're going to say, oh, I understand you've got that objection. And yes, we've heard that before, or da, 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 da. Let me ask you another question. And so we're going to continue to dig to see if we can get to a point where they go, you know what, that's a really good idea. I hadn't thought about that. So we're going to keep digging. Now, if it's time and they're getting off the phone, I'm going to respect that. You know, we like to be respectful. We even like to be funny when we're on the phones, because we've gotten people to events to knock on the doors of our clients just because they were entertained by one of our agents on the phone. So, yes, all of the above.
And I would imagine that those objections probably span every company that you work with. Probably the 95% of the same objections that exist too, like you said, time.
Absolutely. Yeah,
everything else.
absolutely.
You know, when I started out in my career, one of my first jobs was going to the Tomcat catalog and making phone calls. And the guy that trained me said, "It's no need, no help, no hurry, no money, and no need."
Right. Yeah, those are the basic ones. So we just try to encourage more of a conversation. But if they said no interest, it's like, thank you very much, and we're on to the next one.
Tell us a little bit about how we as the business people can make your job more successful. And my point of reference is content. Like what can we surround your reps with to give the context that gives better results?
Great question. Good lists. And by good list, I mean recent. So that we're calling, the better the list is, the better our results are. If it's an old list with old prospects that, are no longer there, or they passed on or whatever, that slows down our ability to do a good job for our clients. So the lists are really important. If it's a new type of service that's being offered that they've never heard about, or a different approach to something that everybody has that issue. So we like to be creative. We like to be entertaining in the little time that we've got. And also we like to ask really good questions, thoughtful questions, interested questions, not just talk about my clients and what we're offering. It's just an old fashioned and not the best way to go from my perspective. And so we talk that through with the client.
Do you share information as part of this often? Like, is there a next step or is that at this stage of the relationship, that's not as appropriate?
You mean when we're talking to a prospect, do I share information? There's certain information we're going to share, but if they start asking questions, we're going to get them on the phones with the business owner, or the person that's hired us.
Mm.
Now, we've had projects where we were calling for much bigger companies that had a major deadline, and we had to actively make something happen in that phone call. That was less about prospecting, but it was about keeping the client. And there were about 300 of them they were about to lose. So we got through 100%. So yeah, in that type of situation. But often we want to turn it into, you know what, I'd like to learn more information. Yes, I'll settle for an appointment with the president.
The right person. Right. Interesting.
The world is your oyster. You're in a unique position where you can work with companies from, sounds like, just about any industry, any business, etc. Is there a profile after you've had an initial conversation with those new businesses? Is there a profile of companies where it doesn't make sense for them to engage you?
Let's see. Well, if they're not doing sales, they wouldn't want to engage us.
Right.
If they didn't need additional support, they wouldn't engage us. They wouldn't engage us probably if they wanted us to be calling on, Fortune 100 companies. That's not our normal target. We're working with smaller B2B businesses that offer different services and what have you.
Okay.
So we don't go after those large enterprise businesses.
Okay.
So how does the call tracking system, does that integrate, like in terms of if I have a CRM, what's the technology behind what you do, and how does that
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
the client informed?
Yeah. So the client gives us their list in Excel. We download into our software, and it tracks everything. And then after the calling, we download it back into Excel and we give it back to them. So they can then download that into their CRM. And if there's special information they want us to collect, we're collecting that. But we know how many hours per day, per week our agents are on the phone. We know how many dials we're making, and we know what all the dispositions outcomes are, daily, hourly and daily. We know what those are. So we provide that back for our clients. And then there are other reports we give also. We're going to, the agents themselves are writing up a document so that it's very quick reading for our agents. They don't have to go through a big Excel. And this is a Word document. And then I provide another shorter document that documents hours, days, hours, and outcomes in a very concise report. So there are 3+ reports they're going to get the beginning of every week.
That's pretty comprehensive.
We want to give them everything. We want them to know where our success is, but also where our challenges are. So to your point, when you're asking about KPIs, et cetera, we're tracking to understand, okay, is there a different question we should be asking, or is there a different information that we didn't give out? Do we need to change the time of day work? We track all of that. To find out when it looks like we're getting the best of who we're looking for. And we also like to use multi-channel marketing keys. So if they're not available, we're going to leave a voicemail and we're going to follow up with an immediate email. And we have businesses that won't talk to us, but 6 months later, they'll come back to us and they'll say, I'm ready to talk. And we'll set that appointment up. Or that, they may respond immediately, depending, again, on the need.
Have you worked in LinkedIn to your process?
We have some clients that have pulled lists from LinkedIn, but we're not specifically on LinkedIn, at least not yet.
So you're helping so many other people market themselves. How do you market yourself, or are you in a lucky position of being primarily referral?
Well, I was in Atlanta for 32 years, so I got a lot of referrals there. I'm actually, now that I'm outside of Atlanta, I'm actually in the process of updating our marketing. I used to do a lot of networking, and actually, I'm doing a lot of online networking
That's
as
how we
well.
met.
Yes, right. And then I have old clients that come back and old clients that refer us, which we've got going on right now. But it's the, what is it? The cobbler's children has no shoes. I could be better. And so I'm working on that actually as we speak. And we've also generating new services. So where we have implemented these campaigns for 25 years, now we can help you implement them. We can train you. We can set up the same systems in your house and do that. If you're doing networking and you're not following up on those business cards, we've got a system in place now where we can do that and get those people on your calendar, within a very short period of time. So adding new services. And so we'll be marketing those soon as well, Tom.
Good, good.
So we got a few minutes left. Two more questions. If there was one thing that you could tell a CEO as they're working with their marketing department, their sales team, um, the importance of what you do in that outreach and how you fit in, what's the one thing you'd want a CEO to know and understand?
I would want him to really understand his ideal customers' needs and pains, so that we're spending time talking to his best customers that might have that need, because we're going to generate more. So those lists are extremely important to us. Timing is important. What's going on in the market is really important. So all those things are really important. But the lists, if when we get lousy lists, we can't provide what we're capable of providing. So updated, recent, lists are, I would say, top of the list.
I think that's important for every CRM, right? Is you have
Yes,
the there's a certain fall off rate for any database, and so that
yeah,
maintenance and hygiene around your list adds a lot of value to your company.
exactly right. And we will update lists as well. We'll do research as well. We just did a calling campaign for a local event, and they gave us a list of 300 people to call, and they had numbers from outside, the state. And this is an event here. So we actually went to Google Maps and we're able to get local numbers and make phone calls. So there are times when we have to jump and be creative about, how do we get to this market? And we had very limited time to do that. So we have to be clever.
Well, now we get to our favorite part of the show. Tom and I met networking, and on our first cup of coffee, we found out that both of us saw Boston for our first concert, and that kind of got the theme to sales, marketing, and rock and roll. Tell us a little bit about your music, how it influences your life, and who's your favorite band, what was your first concert, things like that.
All right. So I'm going to show my age. In the early 70s, I was in Denver. Denver. So Denver's pretty cool, always has been. And I went to a concert, and I was probably within 15 or 20 feet of Jimi Hendrix way back when.
All right.
Also, within the same year, I went to a concert that the Doors gave that wasn't even on stage. It was like in a hotel room, and the room was filled with lava lights. There was no spotlight, or, there may have been a little stage, and we were all sitting on the floor. So, that ages me. But I've got one other event that I wanted to tell you guys about. Mickey Hart is a drummer, as you know, and I was a drummer in Atlanta. And I don't know if you remember the 1996 Centennial Olympics in Atlanta, but Jimmy Hart, or Mickey Hart, and Babatunde Olatunji were responsible for the opening number of the Olympics. And because I was in a drumming group that was very active in the city, I got to be in the opening number of the 1996 Centennial Olympics. And beforehand, we all gathered in a circle, and Mickey Hart was with us in the circle. So those are the closest I've come to, amazing musicians in my life.
You're making me jealous.
What?
Go ahead, Tom.
No, just saying you're making me jealous. I'm a big Grateful Dead fan, so Mickey Hart is as good as they get percussionally.
Oh my God, you are so right about that. And so was Olatunji. So he was the one that brought African drumming to the United States way back when. So
Interesting.
But yeah, rock and roll. I grew up with rock and roll, and that, and music that came over from the East, when the East and the West infiltrated, Beatles and Elvis, and
Sure. Well, the Beatles and the Stones with the sitar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's some
And
serious.
actually, I've got one more story I can tell you.
Yeah.
I went to Stevie Winwood's 50th birthday party in Atlanta because a good friend of mine knew his wife. So I was there with him at his 50th birthday party. I'd forgotten about that.
He may be one of the most underrated performers. He wrote so many songs for so many bands, and of course, the ones that he was in have been prolific.
Yeah.
So that had to have been a real treat.
It was. It was amazing to be included. So yes.
Well, that is great. We find that we really get to the core of who people are. They tell their stories like this, and we appreciate you sharing with us. We're a couple of old rock and rollers ourselves, and we love to share the spirit. Jimi Hendrix and the Doors in the early 70s, though, that's some serious cred.
Yeah, absolutely. I was very lucky to be there. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, we're building this show on the premise that today sales and marketing need to work together like a band. Right?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
We've got we have things and services that we want to sell, and our creativity is the path, and we all have to work together.
Exactly right. And the more we do, the better the results are. Yeah.
Well, it's been absolutely a joy to have you on our show. And thank you so much. Tom, it was great to see you. Sarah, thank you for working this in the background.
Great to see you. And, we say this often, but we learn so much from our guests. So thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and insights too. It was really valuable. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you very much. It was a be here. So thank you.
All right. Well, we look forward to talking to you soon, Sherry. Tom, it was great to see you. We'll see you next week. And to everybody.